Now it's enough for the interview.
Okay.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD Jeannette Hoyt. She has circulated petitions for a Lakefront National Park and she resides in Evanston. Welcome, Jeannette.
Hi.
Well, first of all, Jeannette, what has your work been in a Lakefront National Park, and does that have anything to do with the Save Jackson Park?
That's a great question. It's a Chicago Lakefront National Park. We want to make sure that we're differentiating that. It's important for the state of Illinois because we're one of 16 states without a national park. Well, we have a National Historic Area, a neighborhood in Pullman, no national park, and it's time. Yes, it is related to my work with Save Jackson Park. Because it was ongoing. It never would seem to stop. It was as soon as we moved forward on one part of it, another part would come up. So there was really, how to put this, I'm thinking, I've never thought of this before. There was at least 3 parts. Well, maybe 4 parts, according to other community members. So there's the South Shore Nature Sanctuary. There's Southern Jackson Park, where the Tiger Woods Golf Course was supposed to go. There's the area along Cornell Drive, where the Obama Presidential Center campus was supposed to be extended to the West Lagoon. This was not for campus buildings, not for Obama campus buildings, not for our city library buildings. It was literally for a lawn and a sledding hill. But meanwhile, that was important to a lot of community members. And then, of course, there's the main Obama Presidential Center campus, which is itself made up of 2 parts. The part that they're using to store all their equipment on, and the actual campus. The part that they're using to to store all their equipment on, used to be called the Women's Garden. And that's where I used to go daily. So now we've connected it all. It was an oasis. It was a series of concentric circles. So it's like a fairy garden. In fact, the personnel, the superintendent of the Jackson Park field house would call it the fairy garden because of the circles. And both community members and Chicago Park District would plant flowers or different, indigenous plants in the areas. Towards the end, right before it was shut off and then it bulldozed all within about 4 weeks, community members from Hyde Park and surrounding areas were trying to save the indigenous plants. We're trying to dig them up and save them. So this was grief-stricken for me, because then the next 4 weeks, I and Paul Schaefer, a resident of Hyde Park, documented with both video and camera exactly all the trees being cut down, and we kept hoping they'd stop, but they didn't. They being the people that were contracted by the Obama Foundation to cut down the initial, about 489, 500 trees. These were large diameter trees. Bartlett tree experts had come in and done a survey of the trees. They had the 10 most valuable trees. These trees were massive in diameter, usually not seen in any park. Why? Because they were so old and they were doing what they were supposed to do. They were up to 50 inches in diameter. What's really cool about trees is that at the beginning of a tree's life, it's growing the diameter because that's its lifeline for food. At the end of the tree, well, towards when the tree is becoming mature, it's hard to know when trees end their life because we usually cut them down first or they burn in a forest fire, but not the big ones. So we usually cut them down first. So towards the maturity of a tree's life, the canopy grows bigger and bigger. It's the leaves that sequester PM 2.5, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide. So all these huge, massive trees that were directly benefiting the health on Chicago's south side, and also as the winds would prevail and go northward, anywhere in Chicago, were being lost. My master's is in public health from Chicago State University. When I heard they were cutting down the trees, I was like, oh my God, don't they realize that 1 in 8 kids across Chicago have asthma. And on the south side, according to a University of Chicago medicine study, it was 1 in 2 in some precincts. And as I taught on Chicago's South Side in Auburn, Gresham, and in Englewood, and in South Shore, I would see the kids having asthma in my classroom. And a lot of times they could not afford an inhaler that still worked. That leaves a lasting, it's horrible for them to endure this. And watching it is pretty horrible too. So that was my initial foray into this. And as a teacher, I will talk forever unless you stop me.
The garden that you walked, that you enjoyed daily, did you say it was the women's garden?
It was originally called the Women's Garden. It was put together just shortly after the Columbian Exposition, which was around the turn of the century.
And
there's pictures if you ever want to take a look. It was just glorious. And I have pictures too before it was cut down.
If the trees were about 50 inches in diameter, that means they were over 4 feet in diameter.
Yes. You couldn't wrap your arms all the way around some of them. Mm-hmm. So Jackson Park is old. Mm-hmm. That's why that's why it was designated a historical national park. Excuse me, a historic park. That's the issue. It's a historic park. It's not a national park. It's a historic park, and that was its designation. So, historic park. I'm pretty sure. Pardon me.
Historic park would not have saved it from being bulldozed, from being cut down. It would have.
That was the premise. That was the premise of an organization called Protect Our Parks. And for 5 to 6 years, they kept the Obama construction from beginning as they wound their way through the court, eventually going to the Supreme Court and having Amy Conant Barrett. What's her last name? Oh, Amy Conant. I don't know. I don't remember her last name. I'm so sorry. It starts with a B. Barrett,
Barrett, right? Barrett.
Barrett, exactly. Thank you. She denied it. As we wound our way through the state courts, it was always a bit of an issue because every judge we were seen in front of was an Obama appointee, and you got to wonder a little bit. And then also at the beginning of this fight to keep, I wanted the Obama Presidential Library, so it needed to be on Chicago's South Side. My students in my classroom looked up to him as that's what I can be. That it would be something, if he can attain that, I can attain half of that, and half of that's fabulous. It was somebody to look up towards too. And so that library needed to be on Chicago's South Side, but just not in a place that already had things in it. So yeah. So anyways, Protect Our Parks from it's a historic park, and it's a private park. It's a public park, excuse me. It's a public park. So that means you should not have private enterprise by law in a public park. When they got to
how were they able to have private enterprise in the public park then, if they were not allowed to?
By law, they're not.
Then who overrode the law for them?
We could say the Obama appointees to the different appellate courts. This is not my area of expertise. I could certainly, this is also a battle we've lost. Well, it's still ongoing. I think there's 1 or 2 court appearances left. The issue is, though, if the majority of trees in that section of the park are gone, you can't exactly put the jam back in the jar easily.
Exactly. Maybe that's why the trees were bulldozed so quickly, so that the point would be moot to be in the courts.
Exactly. We've got 2 things going on. Whoa, 3 things right now with that. The Chicago Park District has asked the Jackson Park Advisory Council for their recommendations. This is a first. For their recommendations on whether or not the remaining trees that are on the banks of the Westwood Lagoon, and some of them still remaining in the parkway along Cornell Drive, should be cut down, because the Obama Presidential Center is pushing to cut them down. Because as soon as you cut them down, it's a lot easier fight to pull up Cornell Drive. Cornell Drive, along with Stony Island, I have all along here, I have all these papers with statistics I'm trying to quote from heart.
So what you're saying is that they also want to take out Cornell Drive to for.
Yes, and I want to give you commuter traffic in just a second. I believe Stony Island, along with Cornell Drive, it was 35,000 people. No, along with Midway Plaisance, it was 35,000 people daily in 2016.
Right.
Okay, so this is a major it's a major north-south route. On the north side, bikers, you know, who go through Jackson Park say, oh God, what is this highway doing in the middle of a park? But on the south side, you go, oh God, don't take that away from me. It's the only way I can get to work downtown, because I certainly can't get on the Lakeshore Drive and hope to go anywhere quickly. And that's why it was built. And that's why it's 4 lanes. So we have a lot of, I'm environmentally based, but it's hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore the community harms that are accruing from this location and these other actions. So to go back to the original thing, the Chicago Park District in a first is asking JPAC, Jackson Park Advisory Council, what their position is in cutting down the remaining trees. The head of Jackson Park Advisory Council, and I have actually forgotten his name, has asked for a map of the trees, and I'll be sending that to him through another intermediary. And it's about 120, 140 trees left. But
are you at the Park Advisory Council?
I teach nights. I am a member. I don't get to go as often as I want rather. I have friends who sit on the park council and tell me, this is happening, that's happening.
And who put together Save Jackson Park, the organization? Did you?
That was my reaction to finding out how many trees are going to be cut down. So the first thing that I tried to do back in 2 weeks before all the trees started to be cut down, I hosted a party for press and any interested person who had previously worked on this topic to all get together and let's figure out strategy. We were hoping, there was still a court case coming through. The court case was, I don't know the right words. It was put on hold, or it had to be appealed. In between the next court case, the court case that had just been, it would have to be appealed up to the next level, and the next level court case, there was this window of time. This was the end of August 2021 to middle of September 2021 to the beginning of the groundbreaking, which would have been at the end of September 2021. Gee, I hope I have these dates right. I think I do. That all the trees were cut down in the immediate area of where the OPC would go. That was on about 20 acres of land, 2 10-acre parcels immediately south of the Jackson Park Fieldhouse. For the Obama Presidential Center inauguration, I rented a helicopter to fly a banner above their inauguration saying, stop cutting down trees in Jackson Park. That was all we had left to do. So the idea of a Chicago Lakefront National Park, because there's still trees left to be cut down. There's trees for the TGR design, Tiger Woods design golf course, which earlier this summer, the Obama Presidential Center walked away from. They said they were no longer supporting that. And that would have also included the complete eradication, the complete removal of the South Shore Nature Sanctuary. Because Tiger Woods wanted his money holes to be taken with cameras looking north to get that wonderful skyline view. So there would be nothing left of the South Shore Nature Sanctuary whatsoever. And we used to tease each other, but I don't know how much of it was teasing. Gee, are they going to take the South Shore Cultural Center and make it into the clubhouse? You know, who knows? So we still have those areas. Interestingly enough, there was 350 to 400 trees that were supposed to be cut down this summer and last summer. And we were told by the Chicago Park District and by media, the reason they were being cut down was to support construction on the OPC site, but that made no sense. What made sense is that would have been done in order to begin to put the Tiger Woods golf course together, because they would have been pulled up Marquette Drive. And then if you look at plans for the Tiger Woods golf course, he likes a perimeter of trees with absolutely no trees in the middle of the course, which would have meant the removal of 2,106 mature trees, including the trees in South Shore Nature Sanctuary. And I actually have.
Are those 2,106 trees, are they still there now?
Yes, they are so far. And also the 350 to 400 trees that were going to be cut down for the Obama Presidential Center construction are still there too, because that was really to facilitate Tiger Woods. I'm beginning to learn when it comes to stuff like this, that you cut down the trees and you degrade the area where this construction is going to take place just as quickly as possible, so there's nothing left to fight for. And also, you feel so depressed and sickened that you don't even have the energy to fight any longer. It's demoralizing.
What was the impetus? Was there some order, some court ruling that opened the door for them to cut down those trees? And how many exactly did they bulldoze?
I will find the court order for you, or I can put you in touch with Protect Our Parks, or I can put you in touch with, I don't want to misstate this.
Okay,
it was something that happened in, and it is in all news. You would, if you look, search Obama Presidential Center, trees cut down at August 2021, September 2021, you will find that, but I can look for it too, because I should be able to find it. And I could also put you in touch with people that are still working on it, but it's pretty dead. The court case is pretty dead.
So it was a court ruling that allowed them to, that opened the door for them to go in and bulldoze the trees.
There was an injunction, so they were pushing, and I hope I'm saying this right, because this isn't my area of expertise. It's my understanding that there was an injunction which enabled it, because they had to appeal it to the. So as soon as that judge ruled against them, I'm saying it right now. As soon as the first judge ruled against them, immediately our two lawyers appealed it that day. So then there was a new court case. But the way it was reported in the media by both Sun-Times and Tribune is that we had lost the fight. That was not true. Weirdly enough, the Hyde Park Herald was the only one who wrote an accurate story of what was going on with the legal proceedings. But since then, we've not done well either. And Amy Coney Barrett and another judge said, well, what would you suggest we do now, since all the trees are gone? To the plaintiffs.
So there was an injunction, and the court ruling lifted the injunction, and that caused them to go in and bulldoze those trees.
I don't know if the word injunction is correct, because I can express it like this. The court that they were in ruled against them on ruled against POP, Protect Our Parks. The same day, the lawyers filed a new court case to appeal it to the next level. And they also filed at that point to appeal it to the Supreme Court. Those two courts had not ruled on this, but the Obama Presidential Center took it as a win, and the city of Chicago certainly didn't stop them.
Okay, so what they did was might have been contempt of court, because if it wasn't an actual go-ahead to bulldoze the trees, then they went ahead and did it themselves, and then they might have been in contempt then.
There's the one problem I mentioned earlier. This is a Democratic town with Democratic judges, and many of the appellate judges have been appointed by President Obama.
Right.
They're not likely to rule against him. It's, and at this point, when we're getting into a new territory where and this is not my expertise, but it's my understanding that the last time, we're not going to go back, and I don't know. I don't know, because the other, that probably what you're saying might have been part of the latest filing against the latest level of court that we're at. But if the trees are gone, what are we fighting over?
Well,
what would we, and the structure has been completed.
If they were violating a court order to, and then not have the exact order to go in and bulldoze, but they bulldoze anyway. There might be even no enforcement, even if they were not acting in accordance with the law. If there's no enforcement, then they could do what they want.
And it's the Chicago Park District. The Chicago Park District is interesting. They sent me schematics of Tiger Woods tree removal maps, which was an amazing thing because they were draft proposals, and by law, they do not have to send me draft proposals. And by law, and this I do know because I read through the case law, and by law, as soon as you send in response to a request, a FOIA request, if you send a draft proposal, the draft proposal is no longer a draft. It's an actual proposal. And somebody sent this information to me. So that gave me a leverage and gave us a news story and brought attention to everything that was happening in Jackson Park and Southern Jackson Park, and gave us a ledge to stand on. And we started running advisory referendums. This would be 2022. When you get old, all the dates whoosh together. 2022, we ran first 3 for the June ballot, then we ran another 6 for the November ballot. We finally got noticed because we won all of them, anywhere from 79% for preserving the remaining trees, no more tree cutting. We had 6 it's 9 total. Well, I can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 precincts in South Shore, and 1, including 1 in Southeast Chicago, and the rest of the precincts were in Hyde Park. The precincts in South Shore and Southeast Chicago were at 82%, 79 to 82% to preserve the trees. And Hyde Park, they were around 73 to 75%. So you certainly could not say that this was a white person's issue anymore, because it wasn't.
How did you start how did you start that petition for the Chicago Chicago National Lakefront Park in the 49th Ward?
Well, we picked it because it was Marie Haddon's ward, and she's the head of the environmental committee. I've already learned from experience, it's not worth going to an alderman and asking them for help, because they'll say they're going to help you, and then you're supposed to be quiet while they're helping you, but then they don't help you. I'm not saying that's what Ms. Haddon would do, but that's been our experience. So why even put ourselves or them in that position? So if the idea is that an alder person responds to public demand, they're supposed to be representing their constituents, then we decided to start with Marie Haddon in 3 precincts, 5, 16, 15. I've got them someplace. 15, 4, and 16. 4, 16, and 15, I believe. Right. 3 out of 17. And we didn't have enough people, but you can do a lot with 2, 3 people. And we just kept working on it. We were collecting,
Why didn't you do more precincts? Because you didn't have enough people to gather the signatures?
No, because I fractured my knee this summer.
Oh, sorry to hear about
that. I badly bruised one and fractured the other. That'll teach me to do Tai Chi jumping things. Yeah, so I'm healing now, but I couldn't walk. And really, we did this mostly with 2 people. We had 4 people at the end, but Gail Ferguson from Save Belle Bowl Prairie, she is a fighter. And I did all of the South Shore and the Southeast Chicago precincts, and we did almost all except for 2 days of those 3 precincts, both collecting the signatures and papering doors with flyers and talking to anybody who would talk to us.
How many signatures did you need for the petition to be filed?
I can tell you we tried to get 120 per precinct. So it's like is it 1% or 3% of the vote? I forget. And then we try to do it like a safety margin. There is a formula. I think it's 3% of whoever voted in the last election. And then we try to get a safety margin of another 20, 30 voters.
Did you get any challenges to your petitions when you filed?
Thank God, no.
Did you ever get the petition challenges for the other referenda too, that you started, you said you've started filing referenda in 2016, right?
No. 2021.
Okay.
No, 2022. It was
Oh.
because 2021 is when they cut down the trees.
Hmm.
2022 is when we said, how are we going to stop them? In between deciding to do advisory referendum, and the answer to your question is no. Amazingly, because we were prepared. I mean, we were just so expecting it, but it was like, no problems whatsoever. We were throwing out signatures. We would cross them out and put a line if it didn't look like it was clean enoughly written. We were like pre-editing for anybody who might want to challenge us. We just, yeah, because we assumed we could be, no, it was no problem. In between the cutting down of the trees, the airplane flying above, lots of news stories, it continuing to go to a new level of court, re-enter 2022. I sponsored Save Jackson Park, and my unincorporated nonprofit sponsored an Alderman Justice Forum, and we didn't know who would come, but it ended up being all the candidates for, I think it's Fifth Ward, I don't know, and it's all been redistricted anyways, but for Hyde Park and the surrounding area, the aldermanic candidates, they all came, and we asked them all whether they would stop cutting down. I held an aldermanic forum in order to ask this one question: will you support to stop cutting down the rest of the trees, to stop cutting down the rest of the trees in Jackson Park? And they all said yes. Unfortunately, the person who is now alderman in that district says, well, I need to explore it more. So he's changed what he said. But you keep pushing.
So at the forum, he did say that he would support not cutting down the trees.
Yes, I've got video of it on Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, well, send us the link too. We could include it on the description for this interview.
Okay.
When you so you chose those words, those precincts. On what basis did you choose those precincts? We noticed that there were other precincts that were closer to the lake. Did you choose those precincts because there were maybe fewer residents, voters in those precincts, so you didn't have to get as many signatures? What was your rationale in choosing those three precincts out of the 17?
It's a good question. We chose one of them because Marie Haddon's office was in it. And then we chose the other two because they were on the lakefront. And that meant that people would be in parks, and we had a better chance at big buildings. We could stand by big buildings, and we could stand by bus stops that seemed to only serve the idea of getting off and going to the big buildings. So you're always trying to find a place to stand where there's more people, because we knocked on every door too. And that is just grueling. So first we knocked on every door, and each one of those precincts, every door, and some of them twice, and then at that you want to try to go to places where the people in that community specifically will be going.
How did you knock on some of them twice? Did you have a record of which?
Yes, we keep a record of every place we go. We have these big sheets. Yeah, we map out where we're going, street by street. Yes, no, don't go back there, they hate you. Things like that.
Did you have any advice about how to knock on doors, how to gather the signatures?
Yes, I think he always wants his name out of it, but I'm going to give him a shout out anyways. Just a second. How could I lose the name of my very best friend in the world? I just lost his name on my, okay, just a moment. So sorry. Well, I'll describe who he is, and then his name will come back to me. That's just so weird. I talked to him this morning. He's he was well known as part of the Democratic National Party. He worked in association with Tony Preckwinkle. I'm not remembering his name. He took me through Hyde Park and taught me how to knock on doors. So he would stand at the sidewalk level, and then Mark Lipinski, what is my problem? This is COVID, I swear to God. It's what's left over after COVID, after your brain has holes in it. Anyways, Mark Lipinski, he's a lawyer. He's awesome. He put together the original template to write to put together an advisory referendum petition. He's also he's just been such a font of knowledge. And he took me on an afternoon at the very beginning of this and critiqued me and would stand and listen. Okay, try it this way next time, try it that way next time. And then you just do it.
You
and
mean
then
the pitch to the voter to sign the petition. He was critiquing you on the pitch.
well, he was also, did you ask them how they were doing? Did you, see the response? If they've got plants around if they got things growing around their door. Oh, I see you like growing things. How do you feel about trees? What do you think about what's going on over here? Well, here we've got this petition for you to sign. Now realize you're not telling us that you're going to vote for us. You can certainly vote against us, but give us a chance to get it on the ballot. And then you can register however you feel. And I love your plants too. So, but eventually you just have to knock on every door, and people are going to yell and scream at you, and other people are going to treat you like you're the person they've been wanting to see their whole life. And you just get used to it. And that summer, it was so hot that it got to the point that whatever we did, whatever anybody did to us that was rude, it didn't matter anymore because we were so hot. We found ourselves in the middle of a gang situation, but they were cool. You just do it.
Do you still remember which precinct you were in that gang situation?
Oh golly. It was South Shore. It was at 71st west of Jeffries. Oh, west of Stony Island. What am I saying? West of Stony Island. Yeah. So they said, oh, that's really cool, but we don't live here, so we can't sign it. Do you want a cat? We took the cat with. It seemed like a good idea. The cat didn't look like it was having a good time there.
Oh, good. How was the media in response to the petitions and the referenda? Did you try contacting the media for exposure and information to the public about the referenda that will be on the ballot?
I called Mark at 10 o'clock at night when it was coming in 60-40. And I said, Mark, it's only 60-40. It needs to be 80-20 like we used to do. Is this even worth writing a press release? And he said, well, Jeannette, some people would be pretty good with 60-40, but I see your point. Don't worry about it. You'll get more next time. We woke up to MSN News showcasing it. I opened up my computer. Gail is screaming on me. He's texting, screaming. We're picked up by 5 news sources. Everybody went and called Ward Miller from Protect Chicago. Is that what it is? Preserve Chicago, because he had advocated for this. And in fact, he'd been a speaker at our Envirevent. We hosted an Envirevent in South Shore Cultural Center. The idea being that we want to show there's people here who want to preserve the environment, and we're going to do it where the Tiger Woods Golf Course, where their place may end up being. We're going to do it in the middle of what we thought would be enemy territory, but it turns out there's a lot of Park District employees that don't want to see these things cut down anyways. So anyways, I'm talking to Mark and I'm saying, it's only 60-40. It's not good enough, right? And he said, well, so we wake up to this, and Ward calls me up and he said, Jeannette. And I said, well, yeah, well, I told you I was going to do this, and I asked you if you would send anybody to help us. There's 2 things. We probably got more news media by not connecting it to Save Jackson Park. And number 2, in this situation, if you're an advocacy organization and you're running on your savings, I'm financing everything through my savings. And if somebody offers to give you money, who are you indebted to, and how do your advocacy aims change? and adapt to that.
So in other words, if you were to get money for your campaign, that the person who or organization could ask you to do them a favor, and then you will have to comply.
Well, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't get money again.
Were you offered any money?
Nope. No, I did get some contributions from Hyde Parkers in the very beginning. And then after a WBBM interview, somebody called me up and said, I want to be involved. I said, oh, great, we need somebody to do this, somebody to do that. So he said, can I give you money? So he gave me money. So we raised some, which is why I have an unincorporated nonprofit, but not much. Not much. It's okay. Mostly, you know, I bought an IBM printer, an old, like 20-year-old IBM printer for green copiers up in Wakanda. And I always give a plug to these guys because they actually rehab old IBM printers. I mean, this thing is massive and you don't want to stick it in a landfill, and it would leach all sorts of chemicals. So they rehab them. And it's so I can run copies full color for really cheap now after spending a fair amount of money for the copier. But so as long as you got paper, color, and ideas and feet, right? Feet to take you places.
How did you you were enjoying the park, the women's park, but how did you, was there any other impetus for you to try to save Jackson Park besides you being a visitor, a daily visitor at the park? And I assume at that time you lived in the nearby area?
8 minutes away, going north in the cheap seats next to the lake around 44th and the lakefront. I trained as an acupuncturist. Acupuncture in this country is not considered a science, and acupuncturists do not know how to support their profession, which is life-changing, important, inexpensive, should be used all the time. And so I started trying to support acupuncture. And it's a really long story, but I worked on the legislative committee at the AAAOM, and I worked with various other groups throughout the United States trying to support acupuncture. And it's what led me to I said, you know, guys, we need to have another. If we're trying to support a profession that the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Occupational Outlook does not consider to be an occupation because you've not defined it yet, which is where acupuncture is at in this country, then we've got bigger problems, and the big problems that we're dealing with now. So I went and got my master's in public health from Chicago State University with the thought of being able to come back and find a way to define and support acupuncture and open up an accredited school that wouldn't just be accredited by acupuncture organizations, but would be accredited by our typical college level accreditation agencies. And that's a real tall task.
Where are you now at this goal?
I'm trying to get through my dissertation. I'm starting research on my dissertation.
Good luck.
Pardon me, what's it on?
No, good luck. Good luck.
Oh, good luck. Thank you. That's a better, yeah, because it's just too much to explain. That's a better response. Thank you.
Because I guess acupuncture works, and then is it big pharma that's preventing acupuncture from being more mainstream because it might affect the way that the current medicine is being practiced, like with pharmaceuticals and treating the symptoms instead of the source of a problem.
God forbid we should cut into fentanyl profits. You know, yeah, totally. And some state agencies, most notably, I think it was Colorado, said we can't take this anymore. We're letting doctors prescribe opioids for pain relief, and we're ending up with dead people from fentanyl addiction or whatever they're finding on the street. So without acupuncture actually being defined or acknowledged as a profession by the government, my friend who is also in public health and this would be Brett Ridson of Northwestern University, shout outs to people, put together a number needed to treat study and prove that acupuncture could treat much more cheaply and actually efficaciously pain than opioids could. Back in 1989, I believe, 1989 to 1992, the World Health Organization put out a huge treatise on the fact that acupuncture could treat better than morphine, that could treat better than opioid, excuse me, could treat better than opioid alternatives. Morphine would put you to sleep. So acupuncture could treat for pain better than other opioid alternatives with no side effects. And I'm trying to duplicate that again in a college recovery program situation.
At a city college, you say that are you pursuing your master's or your doctorate, and you're also teaching at a city college as well?
I teach adult education at city colleges. I don't have children. It helps.
Are you at Truman? Where are you at? Are you able to tell us?
I teach adult education at Olive, Harvey, and Wright colleges. I love my job. It's the best. I've always wanted to teach at city colleges.
Yes.
We have Asian refugees at Olive Harvey. All the refugees are, oh my God, what it takes to get here. We have people with degrees. We have smart people. We have people with huge hearts. We're so lucky to have these people coming into our country.
I agree with you about the Olive Harvey and Wright College. I graduated from Wright College, and then at Olive Harvey, I was an intern at WYCC 20, Channel 20.
Oh, fun! Great.
Still in existence. So we, I helped put together that Walk for Health in that 95th that park that Dan Ryan Woods. It was so much fun. I'll remember that forever.
You know, when you're working with a community that wants to work with you, it becomes a joy. So you said, how are you doing all this? But I'm not watching other people do things. I'm not living through, we have a spectator generation. People live through things that don't exist and they don't seem very happy afterwards. I'm generally always really happy. I just might be in pain sometimes, pain watching what's going on or pain for hurting myself or walking too long, but I'm basically, you can tell I'm a pretty happy person because you're living life fully as you are. We need to change the way America interacts with living.
Yes, I agree. And then for the 49th ward, after you got the petitions and then it was on the ballot, did you do any campaigning in the 49th ward for the referendum, for the measure? And did you do any campaigning on the south side too, where there was also the referendum?
I think by campaigning, do you mean after we get it on the ballot, do we continue? Yeah, we go door to door. We knock on every door yet again. You remember us? We got your signature. Now let us talk to you about it. And then depending on what people are saying, I have in front of me 4 different iterations. I'm looking at things here of the things that we, put together for people. So many things, with pictures. And depending on people, how people react to what we're giving them, I make new flyers and we come out again with new flyers. So we're going to hit every door at least twice with new flyers. Usually 3 times. If you're not there, if you don't want to talk to us, that's cool. We rubber band them. So, but then we found that people, for example, I would talk about asthma harms. That was a big deal on the South Shore side, and also the Cornell Drive closing. The fact that how are you going to get home? You're not going to get. It's going to be. We're not making new transportation. We're not like making a new light rail train. We're not doing anything. We have all these people are commuting, and we don't seem to care. We also don't seem to care if they can keep their houses either, because the taxes are already rising. And one of my friends from that time who was helping us, they don't live there anymore already. So no community benefits agreement was put together. But in response to your question, yeah, we go back at least 2, 3 more times and paper doors and knock on doors and hope that people will talk to us. Some people get sick of us. They tell us, we smile, we keep going.
And what time of the day are people most responsive to answering the door?
That is a really good question. The problem is if I'm working full time and Gail's working full time, coming out night hours just seemed like not a great idea because people were getting ready to go work again, especially people who don't make a lot of money. We had a totally different feeling. South Side, I don't know what it was like in Hyde Park because I didn't knock on those doors except the first time with my mentor showing me how to do it. But on the South Side, people are getting ready to work for the next day. They're picking up their children. I mean, and they get home late from work on top of it, even with roads that were working back then, they're working later. On the North Side, it seemed like you could knock on people's doors. There was more people working for home, more people working less. It's not as, it was not as stressful, and people would want to talk to us at any time. But we were always looking, so it's like, well, if you knock on the door Saturday at 1 p.m., yeah, they're over their hangover from Friday night, but they're gone. If you knock on the door Saturday at 9 a.m., they're still in bed and they hate you. If you knock on the doors in a South Side neighborhood Sunday at 9 a.m., they're not home till 2 or 3 p.m. because they're in church. But if you can knock it, but you can do it on the North Side because they're probably not in church. So you're always trying to figure that out.
What about people on the street? Do you talk with the people on the street?
Yeah, if they're walking their dog, we assault them. I'm just kidding. Because if they're walking their dog, they're close to home, right? And then they live in the area that we're trying to target. So yeah, oh, we love your dog, which we do. We both have dogs, Gail and I. And Gail was a vet tech. So we're shameless. But we honestly like people too.
Yes. And what about the train stations, the hubs of where people are, maybe bus stops? Do you talk with people over there?
Bus stops are better than train stations. Train stations, people are going from way far north. You're not going to get your target population as much. If you see them walking to the train station, that's better, but then they're in a hurry. But it's because the precincts are small, right?
Yes.
So that's the trouble with it's always hard. Where can we stand where these people live here?
Was it hard for you to recognize the boundaries of every precinct?
We have huge, I have 8.5 by 14 clip things I printed out. I put lines around it. And then since Gail and I are both dyslexic, we have to put north, south, and then we put landmarks. There's always a feeling, oh God, did we forget this? But no, we just use maps and we mark them up accordingly.
So you just used flyers as for the literature. You didn't use any palm cards?
I'm a teacher. I have palm cards, but there's not enough information on it. So what I want? I don't want just people to vote for it. I want people to vote for something and understand it well to explain it to somebody else so they'll vote too. Mm-hmm. So I'm a teacher. I've got to explain it. And that's why, our latest flyer, well, this is the poster, but even the poster, no, that's something else. But this is the back of the poster. I mean, and I want people, and so I have an 8.5 by 14 version of this because, the 8.5 by whatever, the normal 8.5 by 11 is not big enough. But yeah, I'm a teacher. Well, that's up in the back, but you saw what was on the back before, right here. All of this with my sticky notes on it. We want people to be informed. I respect people. When you start teaching people, when you teach somebody one thing, they have a question to ask about the next thing. Now you've weaponized somebody.
For the referendum that got voted on in March, is that like a primary? Will this question still appear on the November ballot?
Say that again to me, please. I'm sorry.
Will the question still appear on the November ballot? Or has it?
No, because the petitions were due the first week of August and I couldn't walk yet. So I injured my knees at the beginning of the summer. And so I couldn't walk. So no, we won't have anything for November. In a way, I felt terrible about it. But then again, I don't know if we would have gotten noticed because it's a presidential election. And who's going to notice 3 precincts at the bottom of, we had a better chance of the mayoral election It wasn't as, and who would write about us? You know, I don't know if we even get, so that's what I tell myself to make myself feel better. There is an April election. If there's any runoffs coming out of this November election, we're going to be out in November and December because there'll probably be a January deadline for the advisory referendums. But so far, I can't get anything from the Chicago Board of Elections. They're not planning on there being any reason to run April ballots, which takes us into next year. So what can we do? Well, what I'm doing with you, we're trying to participate in more events. We can certainly, we want to put up posters all over the north side, especially again in Marie Haddon's area. We have stickers to put up on the lamp poles, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's illegal, but we'll put stickers up. We'll hand out stickers to people. We'll do as much as we can in terms of, you know, making people aware of it that way. We can also go out into the suburbs, and there will be advisory referendums in April in the suburbs, but they're run differently. Yeah, they'll run according to the Illinois Board of Elections. There will be.
And are they from your organization or from some other
We have
people?
to figure out each township. We have to make a decision on this because it doesn't seem like you collect signatures. It seems as though you present it to the government that's in place, whoever, to that city hall for that town. And they just, so it doesn't seem to be an election gathering situation. So we've been meeting with the Lions group. We've been meeting with different groups, trying to figure out how we might be able to leverage that. Nobody seems to know about advisory referendums. So I'm just reading everything on the Illinois Election Board site and trying to figure that out. And then I've got to go talk to city. I've got to take a day off of work and go make an appointment to actually talk to different city halls.
Are you talking about the Lions Club that might be helping you?
Gail works with the Lions Club. They've showed interest.
So the petitions, the referenda that will be in the townships, it will be the exact same wordage almost, except for the area of the township.
Everything would be the same if it was an electoral process. Everything would be this. It would all be the same. The method of presentation, is it something that I'm able to achieve through asking? It doesn't, I don't know, through asking somebody in the present city government to sponsor this, and maybe then having a Lions Club sponsorship would help. I don't know. We did an event recently where a city government from I think it was Des Plaines, and I've got his name, was interested. So can we do an advisory referendum in our town? And I said, well, do you know how to do it? And he says, no. But it seems to me that's a petition thing. So it could be very well be that if an elected official of that government is interested in this, maybe then it goes on the ballot. But that's not a good answer. And I need to give you, I need to find out more myself to give you a better answer to.
What was the percentage of people that voted for the referendum, for the measure in the April election? It's a March election, I think.
Okay, it was 60-40 on the north side. It was pretty consistently 60-40, 64-40 against.
And then how much weight does that have? What do we expect? It's a non-binding referendum, but since it passed, then what's supposed to happen after it passes?
You would hope that Marie Haddon might consider, as environmental chairperson, talking to her committee and seeing if they would be interested, the committee members, along with her, in sponsoring the idea of bringing Chicago Lakefront National Park to Chicago. And then if they presented it to the mayor and it presented it to their city council for a vote, we have the beginning of a nomination project. National parks, by law, the first idea for it, the first pushing for it, that's supposed to come from the people. And so it always is, well, how do you define that the people want this? Well, advisory referendums would be a really good way. Okay, usually they do a town hall or something like that, but that's not as good as an advisory referendum where you've got people voting for this thing. if Marie Haddon's not interested in it, I would try to bring it to somebody else, but I'm really hoping she might be.
Do
We'll
you
see.
do you have any indication of what's on her agenda in her committee? If it's under her radar, on the committee's radar?
I've been told it's on her radar, and she should be on her radar because those 3 precincts were in her ward. But
Who
as to whether or not she said anything publicly about it, no. And
who told you that she is aware of it?
I said I would assume she's aware of it
Oh,
because those 3 precincts were in her ward. And so the day after the election, you open up and the first thing on Chicago news is this referendum. And it was pretty consistently like that for the whole day through 4 different news outlets, at least. And one of which was national. So I can't imagine that she's so not in touch with what's going on with news after an election that she wouldn't have noticed.
did you contact anybody in her office?
At one point early on, I asked to speak with anybody if they would be interested. And they said, well, you would have to make an appointment to see the alderperson. And she doesn't have any time until I think it's about 4 to 6 months later. And I said, I understood that because that's what we found to be the case when I was working with another organization and we were trying to make appointments. And I realized, and I don't mean this to be a slight against Marie Haddon, Alder Haddon, I just realized that why would she want to bring this idea to the city council and to the mayor of Chicago unless there is a very strong public consensus for it? Because here, what we've got going on in our park is a quantum park, PSI Quantum. This is in the Steels Worker Park, South Workers US Steel. And then we've got, of course, the South Shore Nature Sanctuary and TGR in Jackson Park. We still got what's going on in OPC. We got Morgan Shoals, Pebble Beach. They've just lost about, how many of their trees? 60% of their trees. We have redefined the drive. For sure, it's really hard to tell because they acknowledge that there's environmental outcomes, but then they give no mediating way or factor that they're considering what to do about those environmental outcomes. But if you look at all their maps, which are amazingly similar, even though they're acknowledging environmental outcomes, they're taking away the median strip all the way up to put something there. And on some of them, they're adding a lane of traffic too on either side, but they're taking away the median strip. And if you do a Google aerial and count the trees and compare the tree sizes to the size of the vehicles and the size of the buildings and then do perspective, you've got 380 big trees that are at least 25 to 40 inches in diameter. I mean, they love carbon dioxide. They eat carbon dioxide and they've been eating up our carbon. You got big trees, they're going to get getting rid of all of those. Here,
so what you're saying is that they're proposing getting rid of the median strip on that road, and the median strip is where all these trees are growing. And if they were to get rid of that median strip, then they have to cut down all those trees.
yes,
And who is proposing this again?
this is our Chicago Park District and Redefine the Drive. Redefine the Drive is a marketing name. It's been around for a while, but this is coming from a Chicago Park District. The Quantum, PSI Steels Worker Plant, PSI Quantum, there's a lot of trees on that side. It's a huge site. It's the site of the US Steel. They're cutting down trees there too. To put this in proportion, a tree this big, one of those saplings, 1 to 2 inches, you're lucky if it's 2 inches, more like 1. 50% of them die. Trees have a hard time living, especially if you forget to water them, and nobody watered ours. So the ones that made it through are really brave, but they die. But that's like maybe 5 pounds of oxygen per year, whereas 30 inches is 200 pounds of oxygen given to us to breathe per year. And I can give you, similar statistics in terms of sequestering PM 2.5, SO2, and carbon dioxide, CO2. This is what we're losing all the time. Chicago has 16% tree canopy before Obama Foundation came in and cut down the trees. and before any of these other projects. We're at 16%. New York's at 24%. Our air quality is worse than Los Angeles. That's an amazing thing. Washington, D.C. is at, did I say, they're aiming for 26%. I think they're around 23, 24% right now too. We're at 16% in 2019. It's worse now. And we don't care.
Where is there any jurisdiction in the United States that's doing a better job? Do you have any information about similar models where there was a situation like that in Chicago, and then people were able to lift their voices and stop it, and were able to save the trees? Is that even possible?
There's isolated, usually in smaller communities, but honestly, in large cities, we are the most backwards. Rate of asthma in Chicago children surpasses state and national levels. This is from 2020. This is not even counting in, again, what's happened with the OPC. We don't care. No other, Republican or Democratic, no other city is doing this, what we do in Chicago. This is our land. These are our taxpayer dollars. I didn't get to the Bear Stadium. I tried to do through Save a Tree, which partnered with U.S. Department of Agriculture, I believe, USDA, to put together this thing called iTree surveys. And you can go through, you can do them aerial by, just looking at maps that already exist. We have aerial of everything. And that you can also, you just use pre-existing, I don't know if they're using Google Maps, whatever, but there's a way to do it. And no, they've put together their own maps. Excuse me, it's not Google Maps, they're using their own maps. Or you can go there and actually count the trees. Well, I was ready to hire Save a Tree to go count what I think will be the trees that are coming down for the Bear Stadium, because we haven't been given specifics, but we know the area. We know they want 14 more acres. I know where that would be. Let's count all the trees here. Let's see what we've got. Let's see because it looks like they're going to cut down everything, because there's no trees in the front of the Bear Stadium now, and that's going to become like a mall. There's lots of trees in Waldron parking, but that's going to become a Bear Stadium. So where's the parking going? It's probably going on the 14 acres adjacent with lots of trees, because they're expanding by 14 acres. And that's the 14 acres, I think, until they tell us something different, but they don't seem to want to tell us. So, Friends of the Park came out against this, saying, hey, you can't take away precious parkland from us. But this is our parkland. This is public parkland. This is Chicago Park District parkland. We pay their salaries, and we'll be paying for partially that development. And there's no tree survey. And Chicago Park District came back and told Save a Tree, we're not interested in you doing this at this time. We'll be doing a similar survey. And this was after 5 or 6 months of emailing back and forth. This is very recent, like a day or two ago. We'll be doing a survey in the spring. I'm not holding my breath. So we'll do an iTree survey from above. It won't be the best, but this is public land. And you're saying, Save a Tree was very polite, and they said, hey, we'd like to come out and walk around and count your trees. It's public land. And we were told no.
In other words, you're saying that it's the Chicago Park District that is behind cutting down all these trees. They're in favor of.
No, you cannot say that. Each company that comes in wanting to put some sort of expanded something on this land is responsible for cutting down all those trees. The only thing you can say about our government is that they're irresponsible in protecting what I consider to be more important than a new venue for making money for whatever it is. I think our health is more important, and I think we could find things to do that would be equally more important than what's sponsored by these venues, but that's me. But I'm certain that our health is more important. And I'm certain that we can find sites that don't include cutting down lands, especially on our lakefront. And I'm exhausted by this. This is going to be forever. It's like whack-a-mole, bing, 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 bing. We won't have any lakefront land to give away pretty soon to a new place that wants to use more of it up.
Exactly. And a lot
How,
of it is being eroded away too. And
well, so we redefine the drive is pretty sure that after they make that area that has parkland on it and makes it into more lanes of traffic, they're going to put landfill into Lake Michigan if there's any money remaining of our taxpayer dollars and give us our land back with little twigs of trees.
and there won't be those trees and the roots that help protect the lakefront as well.
That's a really good point.
Well, Jeannette Hoyt, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. If our listeners want to learn more about your work and how to save these trees, where should they go? How do they contact you? Where could they go for more information?
I would say go to the original site, savejacksonpark.org, and there's lots of contact forms there on several pages, and it's easy to get in touch with us. You could go to also Chicago Lakefront National Park.org, but we have a lot more information on the savejacksonpark.org website, and thank you for that question.
Thank you so much, Jeannette Hoyt. Good luck to you, and I will talk again if there are any new developments.
Thank you for your wonderful questions.
Thank you.